So good morning to one and all present here. Welcome to the last day of this generative and cybersecurity challenges. Today we have the last session on time and stress management. So which will be handled by our coordinator, as you all know, Madam since from 5 days, Madam is busy and all. So let me have an introduction of an Madam. Dr. Vidya A. Is currently a professor and head in the Computer Science and Engineering Department of VIVEKANANda Institute of Technology. Madam has completed BE and ME in Computer Science and Information Science from Bangalore University in Karnataka. She has 23 plus of years experience. Madam has done her PhD under Dr. Venugopal. Sir was an ex-Vice Chancellor of Bangalore University of the Karnataka. It's a privilege that Madam has been done a PhD under his guidance. Madam has published many research papers. By the same time, Madam has peer-reviewed international journals and conferences papers also. Her name was listed in the directory of Marcus, who is called Who is Who in the World, New York, from year 2014 to 2017. Madam has served as a member of Board of Examiners in Computer Science and Engineering and for postgraduate at Bangalore University and many autonomous institutions in Karnataka. Madam has served as a member in many academic bodies of VTU as well, also in the VTU University. Madam has got right membership in AICTE, so and International Association of Engineers. So, Madam has delivered technical talks in FDPs and chaired technical sessions in national and international journals. Her area of interest are data mining, soft computing, image processing, IoT, pattern recognition, and bioinformatics. So, this is the brief profile of Madam of Dr. Vidya A. So, now I welcome Madam for today's session on time and stress. That's all, Dr.
So, very good morning. So, we have come to the end of 6-day faculty development program on generative AI and cybersecurity challenges. As a mandatory session, so under this banner, that is ATAL FDP, we are supposed to have a session on life skills. So, number of topics have been given on this category. So, I have selected time and stress management, so which is very important nowadays. So, let us see what is stress and how we can manage, what are the causes, what are the sources, how we can avoid, what are the strategies we have, and similarly for time also. So, how effectively we can manage time, right? And what are the myths of stress and time management? So let us discuss a few topics under stress management. So I am not an expert in this, but still I would like to, I'll try to cover as much as possible these two, time and stress management. So what does stress do and how can stress management counseling help coping with stress, stress management strategies, how can we avoid stress, and what are the techniques we have for stress management, and what are the tips for stress relief, and what is healthy thinking. So it goes on. Okay. Similarly, for time management also, let us discuss how to manage time and what are the tools available for managing time, and tips to improve time management skills, and what are the benefits of time management. And finally, let us have a look on stress and time management myths. Okay. So to start with stress management. So all of you know, right, what is stress? So it is one of the natural part of a human behavior, right? So that is, suppose you have some work to be done and you will plan in advance, right? You have to plan everything in advance, and if you are not able to complete that work on time, right? Suppose if any pending work is there, then automatically stress will be developed, right? So you will be having thoughts whether I am able to complete this task or not. So how I can complete this task, right? And if I am not able to complete this, what will be the consequences, right? So many thoughts will come into our mind. So this is one of the cause for the development of stress, right? So it has become one of the natural part of human behavior, and the stress will also provide us motivation, and also it increases our performance, right? So if we are stressed, definitely we will get motivated, and also it increases our performance also. So if otherwise what happens, we will take it the things very lightly, and will never concentrate on or will never focus on completing that work, or right. So if you are really stressed, then definitely you will take that into mind, and you will see to that the work will be completed efficiently. So that is, stress is having both positive side and as well as negative aspects. So the way how we are going to perceive it matters. And also, we know that psychological stress is known to suppress the immune system, right? So that is, there are different variations in the stress. So one such stress is psychological. So definitely, if you are taking too seriously anything, so it will definitely decrease your immune system. So which leads to some psychological effect, or you may fall sick, or you may get frequent headaches, right? And if this stress is prolonged for a long duration, so you may that has come across a depression, you may go under depression, or it may lead to serious illness such as cancer also sometimes, because the study says that the prolonged stress, so it causes serious health issues. So it can be depression or psychological effects, or it can be, sometimes it can be cancer also. So that's why it is very much necessary to understand what is stress, how we can avoid, and how to measure the level of stress. Also very important. And how we can manage stress. So managing stress is all about taking charge or taking of this, your thoughts. You have to take into control your thoughts, your emotions, and you have to check your schedule and the way you deal with the problems, right? So you have to take care of all these things. So how to handle the situation, and you should have a control over the thoughts, your emotions, then stress will be under control, right? And stress, we can say that stress is an internal reaction to events and circumstances that challenge us to change our lives, right? And there are two causes of stress, that is internal and external causes. Let us see what are the internal causes and external causes of the stress. So we can classify external causes as suppose if you have been diagnosed with a serious illness, definitely the stress will be developed, right? We call this as the external cause, which is not inside your body or which is not affecting you inside, right? This is one of the external cause. And also failing a test. Suppose you have taken some competitive exams or some internals, say for example, and if you are failing, if there is any chance of failing in that test, so obviously the stress will be developed, right? So this is also an external cause for stress. And that is having a baby and then sleeping through the alarm clock. So all of us in this day, right? We are experiencing every day. So we used to keep alarm set for 4 o'clock in the morning, 4:30, 5:30, right? So when the alarm, that is when you are waking up by 5:30 or 4 o'clock, so the day will start and you will be under pressure or stress, right? So some of us, that is by looking at the alarm itself, will be under stress in the morning, isn't it? So that is also one of the external cause for stress. And losing the job, right? Suppose there is a chance that we are that is if we are losing the job, then also that is the cause of one of the stress. That is external. And being in an automobile accident, being late for class, I don't think that this will work out. Being late for class. Whether you will be stressed for this reason? No. So, but earlier we used to, right? And fighting with your boyfriend, girlfriend. So it is also considered as one of the external cause for stress. And coming to the internal causes. So physical changes that occur in our body. So it may be due to illness or maybe due to injury or being in poor physical shape, right? So some some people will be there, right? So even if their shape or body shape is also not good, then they fall under depression or stress, right? That is also one of the internal cause for stress. And worrying excessively. So you are suffering from some of the issues and always you will be thinking about that and always you will be worrying about that. What happens? What will be the next consequence of this? Right? So then it leads to obviously stress. Stress will be developed. So this is also one of the example for internal cause. And decision making. So suppose you have to make a decision. So that is at the PUC level, the students, they are supposed to take professional course, right? So they will be in a dilemma whether I have to go with engineering or whether I have to go with medical, right? And also in that also which college I have to take, which branch I have to select. So decision making is very, very difficult, right? So it also leads to stress among the students or among the human beings, right? So we consider this as one of the internal, any kind of decision making. So if you are in the process of taking any decision, definitely it leads to stress, right? And setting unrealistic expectations for ourselves and others. So we'll be having so many dreams, right? We'll be, that is all of you may be dreaming to take the dream job, isn't it? Or some of you may be having the dream of purchasing Lamborghini or, right? We'll be having certain dreams. So how to achieve that? We'll be thinking always in that direction and so obviously if you are unable to achieve that goal, then obviously the stress will be developed. So which is very unrealistic, right? And unrealistic expectations will be there from our end. So if it is not achievable, then obviously the stress will be developed, isn't it? So that's why we are categorizing these stress as the causes of stress as external and internal. So we can also say that stress is the result of our need to adapt to change. Right? So some changes will take place. We have to adapt to that changes, but we are not ready for that. What happens? Stress will be developed. Right? So changes, as a human being, the changes will not accept it. Right? So that is suddenly very difficult to accept the changes. So regular routine will be there. So suddenly there is some change in the routine. We are supposed to adapt to that changes, right? So but we are not ready for that. So it leads to stress. And what are the sources of changes then? And what are the stresses we may come across? So we have environmental stresses. So we can classify the stresses into 4 categories. So one is environmental, one is psychological, then cognitive stresses and social stresses. So these are the 4 types of stresses we may come across. So environmental stresses is, so which includes noise. So yesterday we have experienced, right? So while coming, while going to DSCI and while returning back to college, right? So lot of, that is traffic jam were there. So examples, that is one such example. So here we are supposed to appear for video online inspection also. So I had that in mind, and but the traffic was very huge, right? That is stress will obviously it will develop, isn't it? So that is because of the environmental stresses. So that is which includes noise, pollution, traffic, and crowding, and the weather also sometimes, isn't it? Because of the poor weather or the bad weather, the stress will be developed. So we call this as the environmental stresses. So which is due to our surroundings or our environment. So we call that as the environmental stresses. Then psychological stresses. So psychological is example illness, right? Then injuries, hormonal fluctuations, then inadequate adequate sleep or nutrition, right? So these are causing the stress because of the psychological fact, isn't it? So we call these as the psychological stresses, which happens inside due to our thinking, due to our thinking process, or due to our thought, or whatever the changes that happens inside our body, right? So due to that we may develop psychological stresses. And coming to the cognitive stresses, so how you think affects how you respond. So that is, some situation will be there, you have to face that situation. So how you are going to take that is very important. And how you are going to respond to that situation also matters, right? So if you are taking the situation, some worst situation will be there, so you have to respond to that situation. But how you are going to take that, it matters. How you are going to respond to that situation, it matters. Right? So we call such type of stresses as cognitive or thoughts. Okay. Then we have the last one, that is social stresses. So examples include financial problems, right? So which affects our societal status, isn't it? So financial problems or work demands or family demands or some social events, job interviews, examinations, and losing a loved ones, right? These are a few examples for social stresses, because we are all social animals, right? I mean, humans are right? We are attached to each other, we respect the relationships, right? So if we are losing the loved ones, so what happens, right? So that this is the under social stresses. Okay, and if you are facing some financial crunch, right? So because of that, we will be losing so many other things also. So that's why we call such kind of stresses as social, which is going to affect your social status or social behavior. So we call such kind of stresses as social stresses. Okay. And what does this stress will do? So we should know. So we have to we should know what is stress and what are the effects of the stress and how it is going to affect our daily life and how we can avoid and what is the level of stress we are experiencing. So it is very important to understand so that we can take some steps, right? So when we are stressed, our body responds in certain way called the stress response. We call that as the stress response, and this stress response includes the following bodily reactions. So you may come across, right? You might have come across these situations, right? Whenever you are under stress, so your muscle tension will start, right? So here you can see the example, the pictorial representation. So the pain at your shoulders, right, back, you may develop the pain, muscle pain. So that is due to the stress. So that is our body is reacting to the stress we are undergoing. So we call that as the muscle tension. And also increasing heart rate. So you might have noticed, right? So whenever you are in a stressed situation, so our heart rate will be very high, right? So that is also the way we are responding to the stress. So increase in heart rate and sweating, right? So you might have observed. This is also one way of responding. Our body will respond to the stress. These are the different ways you can say, or these are the different stress response. And rapid and shallow breathing, right? So all of you might have experienced these responses. And increasing blood pressure, your BP will go high, or you may come across variation in the BP, right? And also cold and calming hands and feet. So in examination hall, we have seen students sweating a lot while writing, right? Their palms and all wet, and that will affect the writing also. So that is due to the stress, isn't it? So the body will respond to the stress in that way. That is also one of the response. And queasy stomach. So some of us will have this problem, right? Whenever you are in a stress condition, so stomach ache will also, right? There is a chance that queasy stomach. All of you might have experienced these things, right? So we should know what are the symptoms and how we have to react to such, right? Because you have to take control over the stress. Otherwise, it may lead to serious health issues. And we have, as I said, there are 4 types of stresses, right? So it is very important to know what are the symptoms, right? Suppose that is our heart rate is increased, beating, right? So why it is so? You should know, right? So if you have analyzed the situation, then you may take a certain remedy for that. So that's why it is very important to know what are the symptoms of stress. So for example, for the emotional stressors, what are the symptoms we may develop? So that is anxiety, right? Which comes under emotional, right? We may be very anxious, right? That is anxiety. Then fear. So suppose you have to appear for some exam, that exam fear will be there. So that is also emotional stress symptoms. Then nervousness, right? You are supposed to present your topic, or you are supposed to give your project presentation or seminar or any presentation. So initially that nervousness will be there, right? So that is the symptoms of one of the emotional stress. And tiredness. If you are tired too much, that is, if the stress is prolonged, then that is, you will be tired, right? Obviously, you will be tired. So that is also one of the symptoms. So you have to recognize that symptom. So why I am tired? What are the causes? Then what action I can take, right? That's why it is very much important to understand the symptoms of stress. Frustration. So this is also one of the way we respond, right? If the situation is too bad, we'll get frustrated. That is also one of the symptoms of stress. Frustration, irritability, then impatience, unhappiness, crying, worry, depression. So these are all some of the symptoms of emotional stress. Okay, so it is very important to understand. So we are under one category. And psychological symptoms. Psychological symptoms is decreasing concentration, right? If you are too much stressed, so you may lose concentration. So that is also one of the symptoms. And loss of sense of humor, isn't it? Because you are stressed and the person sitting in front of you may be joking, right? But still you are unable to catch that, or that is, they may think that you don't have any sense of humor itself, right? So that is the psychological symptom. And low self-esteem, confusion. So some people, they underestimate themselves, isn't it? So that is, they will be having some low esteem, right? And they will be in a confusion state. So that is one of the symptoms of psychological stress. And unwanted or repetitive thoughts, lack of motivation. So these are all some of the examples of psychological stress. And behavioral. So the psychological stress and the behavioral is interrelated, right? So if you are going under psychological stress, so obviously your behavior will change. So these are interrelated. So mood swings will be there, right? So you might have observed the person will be very calm during the first half an hour. Then immediately his mood will change, right? He may be very frustrated the next moment. Again, he may come back to normal situation. That mood swing will be there. So we call that as the behavioral. This is due to the psychological stress the person is undergoing. So this is how he is going to respond to that particular situation, right? And you might have observed biting the nails, right? And finger or foot tapping, right? So you might have noticed biting the nails. You might have noticed. So that is one of the response, your behavior, because you are undergoing some stress. How you are responding to that? So you may bite your nail, right? Finger tapping or foot tapping, you will do it. So that is the behavioral symptoms of the stress. And increase in alcohol consumption. So a person who is undergoing stress, so you might have observed, so they may increase the consumption of alcohol, isn't it? You might have observed in your regular and in your daily life, right? Increase in smoking is also one of the symptoms. So all of you might have seen this, no need to tell much about this. So if the person is under tension or the stress, these are some of the human behavior, right? They may consume alcohol or they may start smoking, right? And loss of libido, that is sexual desire. They may lose it. That is also one of the behavioral symptom of stress. And what are the physical symptoms then? So fatigue, right? So fatigue is one of the physical symptom of stress. Headaches, backaches, muscle tension, heart palpitations, that is increasing the heart rate, right? So that is also one of the physical symptom. High blood pressure, then indigestion, ulcer, difficulty in sleeping, and low immunity to colds, right? Cold. So always some person will be undergoing the cold, right? So that is the physical symptom of stress, because they are under stress condition. So their body is going to respond in this way, right? So why we should recognize the symptoms, why we have to understand what are the symptoms of stresses, so that we can take control of the situation and we can try to avoid such situations, right? That's why it is very much important to understand the symptoms and you have to recognize them so that you can take remedial action. So, in biological terms, we call this as a fight or flight stress response. So, here you can see the percentage of socially, that is social stresses we have. So, it is 25%, and environmental, it is 20%, and mental, that is psychological, it is 74%, and physical, it is 15%. This is how we can, categorize the stresses. This is the percentage of, that is the human may undergo. We call this as fight or flight stress response. So how can stress management counseling will help? So nowadays it is common, right? So if you are going through any illness or some depression, or so you may be called for counseling, right? So we have proper system, right? That is mentor system. So we used to counsel the student, right? So why we are doing so? Why counseling is required? Why we have proper mentorship, mentoring? So that we come to know that what the student is going through is, whether he is able to understand or cope up with the studies, right? Right? How well he is performing, whether he is having any difficulties, right? So counseling will help you to come out of that problem or the situation, right? What you are undergoing. So similarly, for the stress management also. So if you are understanding the symptoms of stress and if you are recognizing them, then counseling is required, right? If you are counseling, then you can come out of that. Otherwise, the prolonged stress may lead to some dangerous health issues, right? So that's why it is very much important to take or undergo counseling. So what are some of the importance of this counseling is, it allows you to explore the underlying cause of your stress and anxiety. So while counseling, you will express, right, what are the things you are undergoing to the person who is counseling, right? Then obviously they will come to know that, okay, these are the causes of the stress that you are going through. Then they will give suggestion how you can avoid such things or how you can come out of that situation, right? And also it helps examine your thoughts, feelings and behaviors that contribute to stress. And with the help of this counseling, so you can also gain self-understanding, right? You will come to know. So when you are interacting with the counselor, so you even will introscopic, right? So even you will also come to know. So what are your self-understanding, what you are thinking, but how I have to be, how I have to respond to this particular situation. Even you will also come to know about this. And this counseling offers tailor-made coping strategies to manage stressful situations. So if the the person who is counseling you is the professional one, right? So they'll be having certain strategies. Suppose if you are going through the psychological stress, so that is how you have to respond. He will be having the answer for that. How you have to respond. Isn't it? So that's why it is very important to take counseling if you are having prolonged stress condition. What can you do about stress? So that is we have discussed. Find out what is causing stress in your life and look for ways to reduce the amount of stress in your life and learn healthy ways to relieve stress or reduce its harmful effects. So you should know all these details, right? So what are the causes and how you have to respond, and what is the level of stress you are undergoing, and what are the healthy ways you can handle that. There are both healthy and unhealthy ways to handle the stress. So it is very important to know. So what are the healthy ways to handle and what are the unhealthy ways to handle the stress. So here after counseling, the counselor, so he will measure, right, what is the level of your stress. How you are going to measure this? This is not a quantitative metric, right? Whether it is a quantitative metric, how you are going to measure the stress level then? Yes, any one of you can. How you are going to measure it? Suppose you are under stressed condition. To what extent you are stressed? How you are going to measure it? Blood pressure, okay. Then behavior, okay. Then what is the level of stress you are undergoing? How you are going to measure it? Complexity of the cause. Stressor. Thoughts, okay. Yes, so it is very important to first determine what is the level of stress you are undergoing, right? So for that, what you can do is, so we call this as the journaling. That is, you have to take a notebook and write down when something makes you feel stressed. So that is, few will be having this habit, right? So few human beings will be having this habit. We call this as the journaling. So keep a notebook and note down. So what situations are causing you to undergo stress, right? And how you responded to that situation. Even you have to note down that also, right? And then keeping a stress journal is that notebook itself can help you find out what is causing your stress and how much stress you feel. So this is one way of measuring your stress level. What is the situation? How you reacted to that? So note down each and everything, right? So you may come across all the stresses sometimes. It may be a psychological or that is physical, right? Or environmental stresses. So note down everything, and the way how you are responding to those situations also you have to note it down. So then you can easily find out what is the stress level you are undergoing. So as I said, there are both healthy and unhealthy ways of handling stress. So here we have listed out some of the unhealthy ways of coping with stress. So obviously it is a tendency of a human being, right? So whichever is negative, we'll try to adopt it first, and then we look for the positive one, isn't it? It is a human tendency. So let us first cover this unhealthy ways of coping with stress. So first one is smoking, right? So which is not healthy, but many will allow this, right? Smoking is also one of the way, and consuming too much alcohol, as we have discussed, which is not a healthy one, but will tend to follow this, and overeating or undereating. So there is a saying that, right, if you are stressed, will not eat properly. But sometimes there are, that is human beings, or there are certain peoples who are going to take food consumption more during the stress, right, overeating, and few may undereating, right. So this is also one of the unhealthy. This is not a healthy coping with stress. So you have to take normal food. In regular days, how you are going to take, so you have to consume the same amount of food. But if you are overeating or undereating, so that is which is not healthy for your body. And also watching TV for a longer duration. So if you are under stressed situation, what will do? Will watch movie or will be watching continuously, right? Television. So which is not good for health. But we follow it, right? And sometimes we try to get isolated from friends, family members, relationships, right? When you are under stress, right? But which is not healthy one. You have to mingle with your friends, family members, then only you can come out of that stressed situation. You have to share your thoughts, you have to share your feelings, right? They may give you solution, but will not do that. Will try to get isolated from all the family members or friends, right? And acting out behavior, that is including physical aggression, will how you are expressing. You may become aggressive, right? So which is not a healthy one. And quitting jobs, relationships, right? And using pills or drugs to relax. You might have noticed in your surroundings or under your friends network, right? Some of your friends may be taking some pills, sleeping pills they may take, right? So, or some drugs they may consume, which is not a healthy one. But to avoid that situation, right? So they are taking these measures. Sleeping too much, right? Procrastinating, this is very, very important. Usually we do this, right? So that is, what is procrastination? So postponing the things, right? Suppose you have 4 weeks time. Some work has been assigned to you, some project has been assigned to you. You have 4 weeks of time. So first week what you will do? So okay, I have 3 more weeks to complete. So you will keep on postponing the things, right? And next second week will also come. Second week also will arrive. So then you will think that little bit stressed, but still. So you will relax, right? Thinking that I have 2 more weeks, right? So third week also will come. Then still you will be thinking that I have 1 more week to go. So simply you will be postponing the things, right? Finally you will end up in, that is stress, right? So we call this as the procrastination. So that's why anything or any job or any work you have, so you have to do it in the right time, right? Now itself, not later, right? So that is one of the
Slide ತೆಗಿಬೇಕು.
So then you will try to escape from the situation, right? So that is one of the unhealthy way to cope up with the stress. So we'll try to escape from the situation, right? And taking out your stress on others. So you might have seen, right? If you are in a stressed situation, suppose your colleague will approach you, right? Or the boss will be shouting at his employees, right? Because he might have undergone stress due to some family issues or so many other issues, personal things, but he will express that on the others, right? So which is not a healthy one. And excessive worrying and using pills or drugs, as already we have discussed. So these are the some of the unhealthy ways of coping with stress. Then what are the healthy ways of coping with stress? Can you tell me? Any of you? Meditation. Just opposite to these things. So you might mingle with your friends, right? Spend some quality time with your family members, do some exercise, go for a walk, read some good books, right? Listening to music, go to temple. Okay. So that is, these are the some of the healthy ways to cope up with the stress. So here in actually in study, stress management study, there are 4 A's you have to follow. These are the healthy ways to cope up with the stress. So we have 4 A's. What are these? Avoid, alter, adopt and accept. So these 4 A's we have to remember. So avoid, alter, adapt and accept. So what are these? So dealing with the stressful situations. So here these 4 A's can be again categorized under 2 situations. So the first one is change the situation, the other one is change your reaction. So changing the situation is avoid the stressor, alter the stressor. Got it? So that is change the situation. You are trying to change that situation you are undergoing, right? Due to which you have developed stress. But now better to avoid that or better to alter that situation itself. So that is one of the way you can cope up with the stress. And the other thing what you can do is change your reaction. Adapt to the stressor or accept the stressor. So can you tell me what is the difference between these two, adapting and accepting? Is there both are same or is there any difference? Adopt and accept. What is the difference?
Adapting means we need to adapt to the as per the condition. What is one is creating stress on us, and if adapting is totally accept, totally adjusted to the circumstance.
Adopt is fitting into that particular situation or fitting into that bucket, right? There is no other way. You have to adapt that. Accepting is, it is you are willing to take that, right? That is acceptance. Adopt is, you have to fit into that particular situation. So that is the difference between adapt and accepting. Okay?
What is physical or is mental?
Yes. So we have, based on these healthy ways of coping with the stress, we have seen what are the 4 A's, right? Avoid, alter, adapt and accept. So based on this, the practitioners, so they have come up with certain strategies. So stress management strategies. So we have stress management strategy 1, so which is based on the avoid. The 4 A's. So we have avoid. So according to the strategy, avoid unnecessary stress. Right? So you may be having the habit, right? So to take everything so seriously that unnecessarily will be in tension or under pressure or under stressed situation, right? So the first strategy is avoid unnecessary stress. So you should learn to say no. So some of us, what we do, so we'll whatever the work or whatever the assignment that comes to our way, so we'll try to accept everything, right? So because we have been brought up or we have been developed like that, so we hesitate to say no, right? When we can do that particular work, so it is very difficult to resist, right? So we say yes, I will do this. So but it may lead to some stressed situation. Consequences also you should know. So that's why try to learn how to say no. That is also one of the way you can avoid stress. So if you can do that job, but there are a lot of challenges you need to face, right? So then if it is out of your control, so then you should learn to say no. So that way you can avoid stress and avoid people who stress you out. This is very important, right? So you may be a calm, a cool person, right? So people will be that is they try to pull you down, right? So they may create the situations so that you may develop stress. Try to avoid such people, right? You will be observing. So as much as possible, try to avoid such people and take control of your environment. So you will be the boss of your thoughts, right? So you may take control over everything. So first try to learn to take control over the situation or the environment. Then you can avoid the stress. Avoid hot button topics. So what is the hot topic nowadays in the news? Okay. So each one will be giving, that is their priority level will be different. Some may be interested in sports, they may say that, so this is the hot topic. Some may be interested in entertainment, they may say that, okay, this is the hot topic, right? So which gives you happiness. So such topics always you can discuss. So some issues or some burning topics will be there. So if you are focusing too much on that, so you may develop stress, right? So try to avoid such, isn't it? Because your body will respond to such a stressed situation. So you may, your heart rate may increase or there may be a variation in your blood pressure, right? So you are giving room or space for such things. So avoid discussing on such hot topics, okay? And pay down your to-do list. So few of you may be having this habit, right? So to-do list you will be having, right, every day morning. So you may be listing what to do this morning, right? So it is better to pay down your to-do list so that you can avoid unnecessary things, right? And you can focus only on this to-do list, isn't it? Then strategy number 2 is alter the situation. So alter the situation is, so if you cannot avoid that situation, so what you can do then? Avoid, alter, adopt, accept. You have only 4 options, right? The first one is avoid, but you cannot avoid that situation. So how you can alter that situation then? So you have to compromise, right? So you have to compromise. Otherwise, if you are not ready to compromise, you have to face the consequences, right? Unnecessary, right, clashes may happen. So better to compromise with the situation and be more assertive, right? And you have to express your thoughts. So suppose some situation you are doing, express your thoughts, express your feelings, right? So that you can alter that situation. So when you are expressing everything, your thoughts or your worries, everything, so certain level of relief you will be having, right? So that's why if you are not able to avoid the situation, try to alter the situation itself. And strategy number 3 is adapt to the stresses. So adapting is you are not accepting, but you are trying to fit into that situation, right? That is what adapt is. So in that case, what you have to do, you have to reframe the problems according to your convenience, isn't it? So because you are not ready to accept it, but you have to adopt it. So reframe the problem, right? And look at the big picture. So you have to take it in a broader way, isn't it? That is, here you are trying to fit yourself into that particular